Chapter 3 The Cave of Secrets. Copper knocked on Danny's door. He could hear the sound of ranting already, a noise that grew only louder as Danny approached the door, saw it was Copper, and let him in. I don't care what you have to do or what I have to do. What we are doing something. I didn't pour 2 years of my life into a creator's fee. Look, I'm in Annapolis right now. I could be back in New York tonight. I could come back on a unicycle tonight if it would help. Just let me talk to them. Just... Ugh. Experience told Copper what was coming next. Don't throw your phone, don't throw your phone, don't throw your phone. Danny threw an ice bucket instead. Better. I miss the good old days when you can slam down a phone. I think they make them this way just so you break them in anger. Brought the booze to you. When you left early, I had a feeling it wasn't good news. Danny was quiet for a while. What is it? Copper pulled the bottle out of the bag. Single malt, finest Scotch Prism toy company can buy. Want to smell the pop top first? Pour enough glasses to kill me and then take one away. I'm afraid we got to do this one glass at a time, Danny. He poured some into 2 plastic glasses and each took one. The play? Hector Keats' people convinced him it would be better if they rewrote the piece to match the tone of the music. And they're cutting me out of the process. Ouch. Yeah. God, what is this brand? Lucifer's Bile? Not sure. I dribbled a little and the label has dissolved. I take it you have some protection? Oh yeah, it's solid contract. I get paid, but what good is that? First time I've heard that complaint from a writer. Do you have any idea what I poured into that? How much I obsessed over it until every single word was polished so well that script practically gleamed. I didn't do it for the money, Copper. I did it because I'm capable of being more than the toy guy. I'm capable of making more than what you find in the bottom of a Happy Meal. I paid my dues. You said so yourself. Here I am, getting shoved right back into the plastic ghetto again. I'm always going to be the toy guy. The two finished their glasses and had another. Sticks and stones, Danny, Copper finally offered. I hate that expression, Danny mused. It implies something that I detest, and that's that words don't matter. Words are some of the most important things that there are, Copper. They take the universe and they chop it down so that our minds can understand them. And words are the fingers of the mind, Copper. They are what allow us to process things, to be able to say, I know what this is, and in context of this, it means such and so. To arrange words in such a way as to open people's eyes, to sometimes make them laugh or cry or yearn, to make them feel. That's a fantastic thing. To be a shaper of words is to be a magi, to divine and shape the world with nothing but your utterances. When you have so many words die, Copper, unread and forgotten, it's a sin. When Copper was sure he was finished, he finally went on. So there's no chance that you can take your script elsewhere? Even if it wasn't locked up by a contract, Copper, no one on earth is going to want to produce my play while Hector Keats is creating his latest masterpiece that is the exact same idea. He finished his glass again. Another. We should probably drink this before it eats through that bottle. You know, Danny, there's the animated series. No. Prism has big plans for this. They want a full revival. They want someone with vision to provide the show with a foundation and direction, and a guiding hand to shape it. That was your meeting, I assume? Yours is the first, second, and third name on that list, Danny. The only reason that they even called me was they were hoping that I might have another Damny Stipple, another you. Yeah, us writers, we're a dime a dozen, aren't we? There was silence for a while. Would it really be so bad? Copper asked. You have a better chance of getting me into that bed than you have with getting me to take that job. Well, there's an awful lot of scotch left here, and I am a cuddler. Danny, answer the question. Would it really be so bad? What, to continue to shill toys? 25 years, Copper. 25. I started this so long ago, people were still saying, I'll bet that O.J. Simpson's a wonderful husband. I want more out of life than being a marketer with a big vocabulary. It doesn't have to be that, Danny. The company told me that they wouldn't interfere. They would just mention at the front of each season what items they would like to see, but how you use it is up to you. They don't want a show to sell toys. They want a great show that everyone will love so much that they'll want to have the toys too. 6 of one, half a dozen of another. Look, just consider the amount of creative control that they're offering you. Why do you care, Copper? Why do you care whether or not I do this? Copper refilled his glass. You want to know why? Because you're good at it. Nobody has ever come close to what you did. And you did it for 7 years without burning out. The only reason that we finally shut down the comic was because the license was up and the company didn't want to renew. While mainstream book sales were collapsing, Danny, yours were rising. This is your Sherlock Holmes. This is your Batman. This is your contribution to our culture. BushidoBots is not what comes to mind when I think of culture. Ah, that one. Culture means something sophisticated and beyond those plebes that you spent the day shaking hands with, huh? You know what I mean. I'm not interested in junk culture. No, you're not. That's precisely why you're so good at this. Because you saw that a comic book about a toy can still be fine art. That it doesn't just have to be something to promote some brand somewhere, but can be a unique piece of art in its own right. A lot of people don't get that. Danny stared at his drink. It was just a job. Danny, do you know why I put you on that book 25 years ago? Yes, I was the chosen one. This was a project that was made for me. You actually believed that fairy tale? Well, well, well. I guess your cynicism checks out when it's your ego on the line, huh? You've been telling that story for decades. Well, I'm a writer too, Danny. I told the story the kids wanted to hear. What I wanted, Danny, was to hone the raw talent of this fresh out of college nobody into an actual artist. And a disposable title was the best place for it. We were sure that book was going to lose money until it was canceled. 6 months. That was the most optimistic projection we had. My expectations were so low, you could have turned that script in crayon and I wouldn't have blinked. This was a creative dumping ground with a grueling demand upon it, so I dropped you right in the middle of that. I wanted to learn who Danny Stipowicz was, so I sent you in there to watch precisely what happened when you drowned. Except you didn't drown. You didn't even swim. You walked on water. It was just a job. I did the best I could because it was my first and I didn't want to blow it, but it's not something I want to make a career out of. How many unsold novels and short stories do you have lying around, huh? I didn't think so. Nothing is keeping you in the ghetto, Danny. You want recognition? The industry gave you an Eisner for the limited series that we published when the movie came out. An Eisner for a toy tie-in comic, Danny. Yeah, exactly. A toy tie-in comic. That's what it's always going to be. You couldn't make that sound any more ridiculous if you were making farting noises with your armpits. Danny, Remember how you and Dallas would get in those friendly debates about Sorbo's Hercules series? Yeah, I forgot all about that. You were so committed to it being complete potboiler, brain dead television at its worst, and Dallas loved it. You guys debated about that all the time. Yeah, well, you know my feelings about junk culture. Yeah, I do. And you know what they say, one man's junk is another man's treasure and all that. I mean, I'm sure some would probably say that about what I do. I mean, here I am, I'm nearly 60 years old, and I'm still in comics. And you know what? I always will be, because I love it. I love that smell when you go into an old comic book store, Danny. You know the one I'm talking about, right? That old paper smell that you just couldn't get rid of even if you wanted to. That sense of history and the dust. I live for that. I do these conventions and do the tours and visit all those little mom and pop shops because I love being around comics and will never apologize for that love. But that doesn't mean I haven't stuck my nose in a book or two in that time. Comics are what motivated me too. That junk culture was a gateway to stories I never knew I was going to love. Tolstoy, Dickens, Don Quixote, and the old mythology too. Comics are my passion, but that doesn't mean I don't love those classics just as much as you do. Yeah. But there's a reason that those myths are called the classics, Copper. Thousands of years preserved, and nations came and went, civilizations rose and fell, and those myths, they stayed. They were epic, adventurous, romantic, exciting. The tales that they told were some of the most gripping, fascinating, inspiring works anyone has ever created. Heracles, Perseus, Orpheus. Classic heroes. Titans and gods. The tricks and lessons and punishing of hubris. And monsters. A glorious tapestry of tales that are without measure. They are wonderful. Of course, Danny, no one author created them all. No, but they all sprung from the same zeitgeist, that rich culture, that collective imagination. They sat back on hills and looked up at the stars, and they couldn't help but tell tales of what they looked at. Just dots of light in the sky. And behold, a mythology is born that will probably outlast the pyramids. You ever look at the night sky away from the city? Whenever Varsha and I can get up to the cabin. Sometimes, Copper, I head out on my boat, cut the engine, lay on the deck and look up at the same sky that they saw. It feels like I'm going to fall into it, but, with no fear or anything, just the sense that there's something grand up there. I see what they saw, and I can tell you, it's impossible not to be inspired by that sight. Gazing into that infinity. I mean, in a sense, out there is where Western culture was born. I mean, hell, when you consider the mythologies around the world, it's where most world culture was born. It's easy to be inspired by that sight. Exactly. It's not so easy to be inspired by a lump of plastic. Huh? Oh. No. No, it isn't. But you were. You looked at a lump of plastic, and you formed a world. You formed societies, and identities, and religions, and codes. People and places and fantastical things. And then you took them and shaped them until they formed a culture that felt as real as any ever has. You forged a universe that lived and breathed, and 25 years after you did that, people gather just to pay homage to what you made. So let me ask you something, and be objective here. Which is more impressive? An entire society working together with the greatest of all possible inspiration to draw upon, creating a mythology? Or one man working alone with nothing but lumps of plastic to work with, building one with richness so great You'd swear you could walk into Donny Matrix and smell the ozone from the circuit towers. Those people down there, Danny, they're not here for the toys. They're here for Hero, Yoko, Syncopa, for the Menace of the Ronin, for the classic Firefall saga and the Dance of a Thousand Tomorrows. They didn't fall in love with a toy. They fell in love with an idea the toy makes manifest. Danny, don't you see what you've done? You reached into inert plastic and you gave it life. You're still just talking about toys, Copper. And that matters why. Ochre, charcoal, and iron compounds are just rocks, but Michelangelo used those to create the most beautiful ceiling the world has ever known. Art is born from the artist, not the materials. It is the artist that sees what something is not and makes it into that. So your brush and canvas are not glamorous. That doesn't matter. You still create emotions. You still create art. And Danny, if you didn't create emotions, you, I, and tens of thousands of people would not be here in Annapolis tonight. So, do it for the fans? Is that what you're saying? Hell no. No, that's a one-way trip to creative oblivion if I ever heard one. No, Danny, what I'm doing is something much, much simpler than that. As your mentor, as your friend, I want to give you something very special on this anniversary. I want to give you permission to stop being ashamed of yourself. And before I go, I want to leave you with two things. First is this card for Shanique Dawes at Prism, just in case. And the second is a question that you don't need to answer out loud. If you write a story that thousands, if not millions of people love, or collect a check for a play that no one will ever see, which one is the artist and which one is sold out? I'm going back to my room. I'm going to watch adult movies and make a toy company pay for it. After Copper departed, Danny sat there in silence for a while. Then there was the sound of a phone being dialed. This is Danny Stipowicz. I was told you wanted to speak to me.